Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Dalton.
Know them.
Hey, Andy. So we are here once again to complete the Drogba unit class recommendation of Kill Bill.
There's a nail in the door and there's glass on the lawn, tacks on the floor and the TV is on. And I always sleep with my guns when you're gone.
Today we finished the saga, Kill Bill Volume 2.
Volume 2, but technically Kill Bill was conceptualized as one film. It was never really meant to be split into two volumes until I believe it was Harvey Weinstein came along and actually gave him the okay to go ahead and split it into these two volumes. Now, Tarantino, we went over a lot of his like style and especially in particular his referential work last week. So I'm going to try and get away from that this week. We might have to pepper it in here and there, but we'll stay away from it for the most part.
This is a film of characters. This is a film of the fate of characters ending.
I agree. I think that this is, it stands on its own much better than the first one. It's less reliant on those little references and little nods. I think it's a film that feels a little bit more, I guess, sure-footed in what it's doing.
And don't get me wrong, I think the first film is great. We mentioned in parts that I didn't like as such. With this, I feel it's more rounded. It feels complete in my eyes. There's like less nuances that annoy me about it. There's not many at all, to be fair. I feel like we were about last week about Tarantino's dialogue and everything. I feel like that is still present in this film, but it's fantastic. And the way it's fantastic in this, a lot more so than the first one. Not that the first one doesn't have great acting, but is the acting ability is not something to touch on last week. But in this, it's just huge.
I think the previous film, Volume 1, is much more, like you mentioned there, action-focused. And I think that although the casting for both of these films is phenomenal, I think the reason that you feel like the acting here stands out is because the scenes allow the acting to stand out. The scenes
100%.
Here are much, much more dialogue-focused. They're much less action-focused. They're much more about methodical plotting, I think, rather than something being flashy and extravagant.
And yet, but the best thing about it is it takes all the best bits of the action for the last one, despite it doesn't have a massive like fight scene against loads of people. It takes all the best bit of the action, like her fight with Elle, the training with Pamir and all that. It's lovely. It's great to see. It's got that little kind of like flicks, the nods to martial arts and all that, and yet it still does that with loads of great dialogue. I said, like character building. It's class.
I like that he also mixes it up in terms of like pacing for the kill list as well. Someone like Bud doesn't have a big showdown with Uma Thurman, but he has this moment where he's just able to outsmart her and he gets the upper hand.
Which is what I love. She doesn't actually defeat Bud. Sorry, not Buzz. She doesn't actually defeat him. He gets defeated. Just he underestimates Elle, sort of thing. And this is one of the issues. Another one I have with the first film, and I didn't touch up on it last episode, was the first fight with, I think it was Copperhead. For me, I love the fact that the daughter comes into play, but then the fight, it feels too rushed, and it's at the start of the film. I know it's trying to give you a sense of idea. It feels too rushed, whereas in this, the fights with, obviously Bud has his own kind of fight, but the fights with Elle and obviously Bill at the end, and even Pamir, they just feel elaborate. They feel orchestrated, choreographed, but in a fantastic way. And it's just...
So after the initial interaction with Bud when she's buried alive, we get like sort of the big flashback sequence, and I think that this is where you get maybe my favourite sequence in the entire film, and I'm going to guess yours as well because you've kind of like mentioned it in passing a couple times already, and it's Pamir.
100%. Pamir is incredible. Like that's why, weirdly enough, before dropping Munich class suggested this, I've been watching a couple of YouTube clips of the Pamir moments. I was thinking, fuck, I want to watch Kill Bill again. It's been years. And then obviously he came about, suggested this. I was like, fucking right, I want to do this because I want to watch it for those scenes alone. They're fantastic. They're just fantastic. It's such a... You watch these films, you know, it's kind of like a mix of different genres, but then you just do that. That's a truly like martial arts, but martial arts on steroids. It's like... It's such a great fitting homage to, well, we'll go on about Pamir in a second, but like what martial arts films are all about. You know, you have this teacher, he is the master, he will teach you everything, you abide by him, and like, you know, this is my master and all this. It's a great, fantastic scene, and the way he just openly insults her to speaking Chinese, Mandarin. Well, you speak more about Pamir, you might know more. I know there's quite a few films he's featured in.
for anybody who doesn't know, Pamir is a Chinese, I guess, possibly a legend. People aren't quite sure, I don't think, whether or not Pamir existed or whether or not he's just part of folklore. And basically, he is this character who is said to be part of these 5 elders. And Pamir he's been used. I guess technically his original name is actually Bakmir, but his character has been used in a bunch of films in the past. He's always portrayed as being a unbeatable master. He's always portrayed as being this sort of leader of these evil clan, and he's referred to as the White Eyebrows, and he's kind of the guy who you go up against and you can't beat him. So this is where I think for me, Tarantino's referential elements start to click and they start to work, because
100%.
Now, without any sort of overt dialogue, what we've managed to do is communicate to the audience that actually what we've been watching for the last film and a half isn't the creation of heroes or good people turned bad or even maybe, morally grey people. What we've actually been watching for the last film and a half is the creation of villains. And this is actually the guy who is training all of these villains, and we are whole hog leaning into, oh, you're not actually watching a traditional protagonist. You're watching somebody who was meant to be like the head of a clan, or you're watching somebody who's meant to be the head. He's supposed, these people who are supposed to have henchmen and supposed to be challengers, they are the bad guys who the good guys would normally defeat in a film. We've flipped it on its head.
And the bride is the lesser of 2 evils. She's someone who's got a little moral compass, much like some of the other villains as well. But she's got a little moral compass, and we just so happen to follow her story because it's a tale of revenge. Just as heroes can have revenge, so can villains.
He's based a lot of these films, a lot of these sequences on the Shaw Brothers films, and we'll get a little bit more into Shaw Brothers films at a later date. But I mean, the Shaw Brothers made, I believe, hundreds of films over the course of their time, and obviously Pamir pops up in some of those. And he even shoots the Pamir flashback sequences like a Shaw Brothers film, with more crash zooms and more like handheld jerky movements. And he even, I'm pretty sure, people can correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure he changes the film stock to match more of the Shaw Brothers like film look. It's really cool.
One of the things I like is that the guy who does Pamir is Gordon Liu. He actually appears in one of those films, but he's actually not Pamir as such. But he I think he fights Pamir, who's portrayed by someone else. Dude, fucking Uma Thurman is killer in the series. Like, she's absolutely fucking killer. Let's just look at the first scene of Kill Bill Volume 2, where she's facing the camera in the car and it zooms in on her face, and she's breaking the fourth wall and she's speaking to the camera about it. It's just a story of revenge. That's fucking superb. That is someone, he's like, oh yeah, Uma Thurman, class, get in. Later on down the film, she's speaking Japanese, she's speaking Mandarin, she's doing English, she's doing these incredible like kind of fight sequences, whether or not that's a double or whether actually she's doing her own kind of stunt. It's being obviously choreographed. It's mad.
She's really good. And then it's also here where we get our full appearance of David Carradine as Bill. I love how Bill, when we get this reveal of him, and there's hints of it in the first one, but he's so calm and he's also so controlled, but there's almost like this seething rage underneath him the whole time. And
he's a
you can see that
killer.
he's a very, very intelligent guy, and he's very meticulous. I love the moment where he meets Uma Thurman's husband-to-be.
Oh, yeah. He plays the part.
You can pinpoint the moment where he flips. You can pinpoint the moment where he...
Is that when can you walking down the aisle?
No, I was going to say it's where Bill asks, isn't it unlucky to see the bride in the wedding dress before the day?
Good call.
And clearly this is a man who is steeped in like tradition and honor, and obviously the guy he's talking to, the husband to be, he doesn't take it seriously because he's
completely
he's
oblivious.
much more of a modernized character, whereas Bill is steeped in tradition and that to him I think is just fundamentally an evident point that I think that's the moment where he decides, right, well, I'm killing this guy.
And hands down, that is one of my favourite in a long time. Like kill the antagonist sequences, because the best thing about the whole thing is it's built up, and then the fight doesn't last that long.
It's also nice that I think that the 5-point palm explosion is like,
the one.
it's set up in a very sort of Chekhov's gun manner earlier in the film. However, there's a big however to all this. No, there isn't. Do you know what there isn't? There's a teeny tiny little however that pisses me off so much when Bill sits down with Beatrix.
Yeah.
And he's giving her the lead up to his sort of like villainous speech, I guess.
Oh, they used the Superman reference.
And it's the Superman reference. Because he's fundamentally wrong. I'm sorry, but he is fundamentally wrong. So the whole concept, right, is that Bill's saying Superman is Superman first, and that his mask is Clark Kent, and that the idea is that Clark Kent is bumbling and he's silly and he's stupid because he's a critique on the human race.
But he came to Earth as Superman, and he was brought up as Clark Kent, and his parents brought him up to be Clark Kent.
Exactly. I'm like, yes, Superman was born on a different planet, but he lived a full life. He lived a full childhood. He grew up as Clark Kent. He is not yes, he plays it up a little bit, to hide maybe sometimes, whatever, but he's not critiquing the human race. Superman fundamentally stands for truth, justice, and the American way. He's not... Yeah, the whole thing boils down horribly, and I hate that tiny little moment. He also says at one point it's not a particularly well-drawn comic. I'm sorry, Bill. Which issue are you referring to? How many of the hundreds of artists that have drawn Superman are you referring to there? Are they all terrible? Bill,
have we just unveiled another Lazarus? Have you unveiled another Lazarus moment?
Nah, it's a tiny issue. Like, Lazarus is a fundamental problem. This is just a silly Tarantino writing about stuff he has no fucking clue about.
That is a lot to take in for Kill Bill.
So, Kill Bill Volume 2, I think personally, big step up from the first one. I really enjoy this.
Huge. This is so much better for me. I love, this is my kind of film.
Yeah, I think it's a film that stands alone a lot more than the first one did. There's still plenty of little references and stuff here and there, but it works for me a lot more. The grindhouse element for he and me really starts to click for me personally. But anyway, there is Kill Bill Volume 2. You can let us know down in the comments below what you thought of Kill Bill Volume 2. Andy and I, though, are going to be back once again next week, where we're going to take a look.
We jointly agreed on this, didn't we?
We did. We both came to the same conclusion that after doing this, after seeing Tarantino's representation of the Shaw Brothers films for so long, there's only one thing we can really do, and that is look at Clan of the White Lotus.
Get in.
So, until then, stay safe. Stay quarantined, get watching, and we'll see you then.
Catch you later.